Welcome to Oak City Church, a family of learners, lovers, and givers sent. For more information, visit us online at oakcitychurch.com. Let us know if we can help you in any way. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, if you've been around Oak City for a minute, you know that Jeff loves this series. Oh, dismissed kids. Yes, kids. Yeah, you're going to want to leave for this one. Go ahead, have fun, and enjoy. But yes, if you've been around Oak City for a minute, you know Jeff loves this series. We usually do it every August, and it's an opportunity to talk about just what God's doing in the life of the people of this church. And so for those of you who don't know, this is Michael Ramsey, Grace Anderson, and my name is Matt. I'm one of the elders here. And today came about basically in, really I was here kind of when Grace was going through a little bit of the story she's going to share today, and I was like, this is a really cool story. We need to share this at some point. And then later I heard Michael's story, and it was really a very similar story. So this is a little different today. We're talking about two completely different stories that actually have nothing to do with one another, but have a lot of parallels. And really an element of, effectively, the story is how you guys growing up kind of went from it being your parents' faith to your own faith, and the rocky road that it took to get there, maybe, is kind of what we're going to dive into. So let me just start. Michael, if you want to go first. Hold on, I got to check my Instagram real quick. Just kidding, I got my notes.
I gave you a follower there.
So if I would have come to you as a freshman, sophomore in high school, and just said, tell me about your faith. Are you a Christian? What does that mean to you? How would you have answered that?
I would have told you that I am a Christian, but if you asked me why I thought I was a Christian, I would have told you it's because I go to church on Sundays. It's because I do this, and I don't do these things, and I do all the things my parents tell me, and sometimes I read my Bible, sometimes I pray. It would have been because of the things that I did. That's what I would have told you about my faith.
Yeah. And about you, Grace?
Yeah, I would have said the same thing. I'm like, yeah, I go to Oak City every once in a while. Probably could read my Bible a little bit more. Yeah, pray, and yeah, I'm a Christian.
Good. That's not your fault, by the way. Good job holding the microphone close. And now, give a little foreshadowing here. What would you say about now, looking back at that time in your life, how would you have described your faith then? Like, with the eyes you kind of see with now?
If you couldn't gauge it from my initial description of it, I lived in a lot of legalism. Like, I was living off of my parents' faith especially, but a lot of the fulfillment that I found was from following whatever my parents said to do, and kind of doing the things that I was supposed to do. And I think that I quickly found out that there was a lot of emptiness in that, because I found out that I wasn't very good at following those things, especially compared to other people.
Yeah. Grace?
Yeah, I would have said the same thing. Like, my faith was based off of, like, good works. So, yeah, I would say the exact same thing Michael said.
Okay. And so kind of the story kicks off where you both get into relationships, right? You both, around your junior year of high school, enter relationships with someone that you didn't share faith with. Can you tell me about that, Michael? You want to kind of, who is this person? What were they like?
Yeah, so this girl was an older girl that I met in my biology class. She was a Jewish girl, didn't make my parents the happiest.
And just to be clear, not because she was Jewish, but because she didn't share your faith.
Yeah, because she didn't share faith with me.
Right. Okay.
I mean, I don't know. My dad's questionable sometimes.
we don't need to go viral for bad reasons.
We won't go there.
Okay.
But there were a lot of red flags that I think I missed out on, looking back on it, into her extracurricular activities, and her relationships with people, her family, and even myself early on, that I missed. And I think that's what I would say about describing her.
And then you, Grace, is a little different. Tell me about this relationship that you had.
Yeah, it was my first relationship. I kind of knew him all 4 years of high school. Great guy, super smart. He just didn't share the same faith as me, but beliefs-wise, it was good personality. Yeah.
This is something interesting that really came out in your story. You had shared with me when we talked about this, you guys really shared the same values, but you didn't share the same faith. which was fascinating to hear because even then I've heard that from a few other people. And I think in some ways, like when I was young, if you shared faith, you shared values kind of automatically. And I think nowadays it's even becoming a little, kind of in our hyper-political moment, it even gets a little more confusing. And so that must have been really confusing for you in some ways.
Yeah.
And what can you say a little more about like how that felt or the confusion in that?
Yeah, I would say like I, at the time in my faith, didn't really think that there was a lot wrong because it felt like we were on the same level. I think just because of me being immature in my faith and not really purely like understanding the gospel enough, it felt like to me it was the right thing to do.
Our values line up. What's the big deal?
Yeah.
That's the whole point of sharing the same faith. And I was really challenged even hearing this, kind of having to work through myself, like, oh, how do I articulate this to my kids? The difference between just sharing faith and values and all of that. And I thought that was really insightful. So obviously we get to a point where your parents probably aren't super thrilled about these relationships, right? Michael, how did your parents handle it? I mean, what did they do? Did they come out hard, scream and yell at you? What was going on here? Take us inside Pastor's home. We all get a peek.
Oh, you guys are going to get it. Well, they didn't, like, I had an argument with my dad about this. Not an argument, but a debate. But I don't think it was very clear, their disapproval. I'd be like, oh, what do you think of her? He's like, I like her. So if he's ever said that he likes you, it doesn't really mean anything. I approved that with him beforehand. But yeah, like, they ended up letting me kind of do my thing, which looking back on, I really appreciated it. And we'll find out soon. I've definitely made some mistakes with that. But if they hadn't done that, I would have harbored a lot of hatred towards them and towards the reasons that they would have used for their disapproval.
Yeah.
So.
And this is where your guys' story touched just a little bit because you're 3 or 4 years older. Your parents had known this, so they go to his parents and like, hey, how do we handle this? They'd say, just back off, and they do. Tell me again, how did that kind of play out for you? I mean, you knew they didn't approve, but at the same time, they kind of let you do what you wanted to do?
Yeah, so I knew they didn't approve. It was like pretty funny because I felt like a change. Like when my parents did talk to your parents, it was like, oh, they're not really caring anymore. But yeah, it was tough like the first little bit with their disapproval, but it almost like made me more stubborn and in my head like, oh yeah, it's like gonna work out even more. And then it did help a little bit when they backed off like your parents did.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, and so at that point, you guys are both kind of now in this alone, right, to navigate and to figure out. One of the cool parts, the stories have similar tracks here, is that you both find yourselves, again, 3 years apart, at church services that are not Oak City Church. Michael, why don't you go first, actually? Why don't you tell us about this church service, what happened there, how that was, and yeah.
Yeah, so this church service was not at Oak City Church. I had a soccer game on a Sunday. Me and my mom were traveling pretty far, so we're like, oh, let's go to Summit on Saturday night. And I was supposed to hang out with this girl on Saturday night, and she was like, oh, I'll come. I was like, really? Because that had not been really brought up at all. And so we get there, and she's never been to a church service before, and the church service happened to be about dating non-Christians. Yeah, she didn't take too kindly. I'm sitting here. We're in the front row, by the way. My mom's to my left. She's kind of like giggling a little bit. My girlfriend's to the right. She's crying like crazy. Needless to say, we were driving home. For some reason, there was no conviction in me at all. I totally just saw right over the thing. Mm-hmm. We were driving home, and I'm consoling her, and I go in the house because she's having dinner with us. She's getting herself together. I get in, and my parents are laughing.